we're in this strange moment where an incumbent vice president is running a change campaign against a former incumbent president. And I think that really, right now, is the main question. When voters go to the polls in November, are they going to think they get the most change by voting for the party in power and the vice president who's making the claim that for lots of reasons she's a departure and will solve problems in a way that Biden didn't? Or are they going to go back towards President Trump?
So one of the biggest miscues in politics in these past few weeks by people who know a lot was this fantasy that anything would happen if Biden stepped down other than Harris taking over. So maybe if it was some people who you don't take seriously, who talk about primary this or that, if you knew the rules and you knew the system, there was only one answer. There was only one answer, and I was surprised about all the news coverage that even took this fantasy seriously, as if there could be an open primary.
So we've already started to see this, but she, just to give a really quick overview of this, she spent a lot of her career in law enforcement, which didn't really require her to publicly articulate and take positions on a lot of the big issues of the day, whether it's foreign policy, domestic policy. I mean, we generally kind of knew where she stood, but that didn't really start until 2017 when she moved from Attorney General to the US Senate, and she started to sort of define herself on a broad range of issues. And when she did that, coming out with many of her colleagues with Senator Bernie Sanders on Medicare for All, or voting with a very small number of Democrats against a border wall deal. I mean, there's a host of issues she came out. And then we saw a second wave of that come in 2019 when she put out her policy platform and ran in that primary. And so we saw her come out again. And then there was some corrections to that. Midway through the primary in the summer, she came out with her own healthcare plan. And so there have been these changes. We see fracking. And part of the challenge, I think, is going to be explaining where she's at currently, but also answering questions about her shifting on those particular issues. And so there's a policy part of it, and then there's just a general performance part of it. When things start to turn or things get tough or she's sort of, under pressure, how does she respond in those moments? How does the campaign respond in those moments? And so we have not seen that necessarily happen yet, but those are the sorts of things that she's going to have to deal with.
I think Trump was right when he said vice presidents don't matter. They really don't, except when they do. So talk for a moment about J.D. Vance and Gunnar Walls.
I don't think we've seen in recent cycles a more divergent, maybe it would be the Sarah Palin selection of John McCain in 2008. I don't know if people don't remember it now because Palin is seen as like a horrible catastrophe, but in that month after the convention, for the first time in John McCain's campaign, you had massive crowds, and they were coming to see her. And so you had this immediate burst of energy, an immediate reshaping of the race. I think Walz, I agree, in the end, no one's going to vote for Walz when they go to vote. But I think Walz has substantially contributed to the reframing of the race we've seen. And what he has done is taken away the most obvious attack on Harris, which is that she's a San Francisco liberal who is divorced entirely from voters' lives in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, who comes from a different world, who doesn't understand your needs or concerns. By having him next to her at every event, that attack has been blunted, and you've seen it in the frustration of Trump, who the Trump campaign has spent almost as much time, if not more time, over the last couple of weeks attacking him than they've attacked her because they're so frustrated with his presidential ticket.
Political communication has changed so much that impacts how the press has in terms of material. At this convention, 200 influencers or creators have been accredited who have the access that mimics what press does, lavished with attention, access, because the campaign knows that influencers are a reliable way to get a campaign message out, and no surprise, the press is something you can't control as well.